Namaste, everyone. Namaste, namaste. Good to see you all. Hope you all have had a great week, because I have. The weather is so nice. Things are being relaxed a little bit more, not so tense. So I hope you are all very relaxed in your homes and making use of this time to just find your peace. Remember, make peace your God. And whenever the mind goes everywhere, bring it back to peace is my God. Our talk today is continuing on the subject of yoga, of devotion. And the question is, how much free will do we have? Can we influence the course of events through the vibration of prayer and meditation and by our own actions? I wanted to specify my question, that I'm talking about influencing the course of events in this lifetime. Thank you for the amazing work you do. Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you. How much free will do we really have? Now, for years, Chitra, I pondered on this question. Years and years and years, I studied books. I couldn't get my answer. And all the time in my meditation, I asked the question, do we really have free will? Do we really have free will? You know, aren't we just constantly, these events happening to us that we never even thought would happen, and our reactions and people's reactions, and do we really have free will? I work so hard to find my peace. So all these questions happened in my head. And one day, when I was least thinking about it, and I remember this day so clearly, because it's one place that I didn't expect to find the answer. It showed that my mind was really relaxed. So I was out for dinner with my late husband in Spain, a place called Calanda. And I just went for a break to the ladies' room. And suddenly, while I was there, I looked in the mirror and I just got it. I just got it. So I'm trying to explain to you in words something that is really hard to explain. It's more an experience of it. And what I got was, I'll give you a few examples. Imagine each of us are given a canvas in our life. Some canvases are big, some canvases are small. That's what you come with. Your families, due to your previous past lives, you get the canvas that you are given. And according to that canvas is your background, which family you come from, your DNA, your genetic code, all to carry on with that canvas. Now, big or small, it doesn't really matter. The size is there. Now, when we start comparing, even in our own lives, for example, oh, my house is smaller, yours is bigger, you're better, you're luckier. When you start doing that, then you really have no free choice, all right? But when you start to look at your canvas and look at it for what it is and say, okay, I have a tiny canvas. My friend has a huge canvas. Oh, bless them. That's their luck. That's their karma. This is mine. Now that it's so small, I have the free choice to either make it a brilliant picture or I could make it an ugly picture. The choice is mine. If I feel sorry for myself, my goodness, the whole time I will be playing the victim, believing I have no choice, that nothing is up to me, and I'll be saying, you see, what can I do? The divine gave me this life. I just have to accept it. My life is miserable. I come from a poor family. I don't have the job I want. Everything bad happens to me. Whoa, that canvas shrinks into the background. You'll never see it in this life. But if you take that small canvas and say, yeah, I got Very little choices in this life. But boy, I have 3 colors of paints in my palette from my own brain. I have 3 colors. And with 3 primary colors, do you know how many colors you can make? Millions of shades of greens, of reds, of blues, of oranges, just with 3 primary colors. So that little painting, depending on what you put in it, is your free choice. Got it? Somebody could have a large canvas and could paint a really ugly picture. So this is one explanation. In the beginning, you have free choice. You can use what you have to make the best life you have. Going a little deeper now. What I learned is we have the free choice to know that we have no choice. Now that's going deeper, and you shouldn't be discouraged by this, because actually this was a brilliant understanding for me. Because while I had free choice and I was already on this path, I felt I have to do so much doing. But when that realization came that I had the free choice to realize that I had no choice, I actually came to that point, that no choice thing was the flow of the divine plan for me. That when I touched that divine plan, that's why they say go with the flow. Nalanie, everything just flowed for me. The divine plan. When I was thinking, oh, I have the choice, I have to do this, and I have to do this, and I have to do that. Yes, of course we have to do certain practices, but we can't totally control everything. And that's when you start to let go and surrender, and when you start using your heart. And I think that's when I got the vision of what free choice really was, because then it turned to divine choice. Why would I like to argue with divine choice? It's got the best laid out for me. It is our ego, the things that we can control every situation in our lives, that we hold on to this idea of free choice. Yes, in the beginning, we do have free choice, totally, to realize that the divine choice is the best of all. And when we trust that, and that's what they call Ishvara Pranidhanam in the Yoga Sutras of Sri Patanjali, which means surrender to the highest, then you become free. Let go, let God. Right? Do you hear that? So understanding that there's like 2 parallel layers going on in our life. The first layer, while we're here, when we first start, and for many, many years, we have the choice to do the practices, to study, to learn, to find out who we are, to question, who am I, where am I? And when we do that, and we are deeply entwined with our higher self, when we have developed that conversation with our higher self, then as you practice, the experience comes to you. You know, I've been saying for years, you know, God's plan is perfect, but did I really understand it? Don't really understand it. But at this point, when you work with love, when you work with devotion, when the heart opens up, then you see that the highest plan is the plan of love. And when you connect with that plan, you don't really care about free choice anymore. You really don't, because you know the plan is perfectly laid out. Does it mean you don't do anything? Absolutely not. Now that you know there is a really intricate, beautiful plan laid out for you, now is when you work in the spirit of loving everything you do. As Eckhart Tolle would say, now is when you really learn to live in the present moment. Why? Because your mind is not fiddling. Is this? Is this that? Is that that? You're not thinking anymore. You've done your study, you've done your practice, you've done your work, and now the mind is quiet. Now it just lives in love. Whatever the day brings, whatever the year brings, and all that you have learned, you know without doubt, you can find a solution to every problem if you observe the laws of devotion. What are the laws of the spirit? What are the laws of devotion? Very simple. The 10 commandments, we may call them, yamas niyamas. We can call them the eight disciplines of Buddha: right knowledge, right thinking, right work, right this, truthfulness. These are the divine teachings. So when you follow those teachings, then your free choice becomes divine choice. And that is so much better than the ego getting too involved in everything. Another example, I hope that wasn't too deep, but actually that's the truth. Ultimately, that's what you realize. But I'll give you another example. Like I said, I spent years contemplating this to really understand it myself and to find myself in a place where I could explain it as simply as possible. And like I said, no explanation can really give justice to the experience, but I will try. The other thing that when I was young, and I think some of my students already know this story, when I was young, I used to buy tapestries, you could buy them from shops, haberdasheries, and they would have a picture all done up for you, and then you'd buy different colored threads and you do cross stitching, right? And so the picture was made up already. Like, for example, let's say you got 5 or 6 flowers and it came with the instruction, these are the colors. So you buy the thread and then you do the cross stitching. And I remember when I was young, I wasn't really very good at sewing. Really, I wasn't. I really tried, but I realized soon enough, I'm going to do this cross stitch and it's not my thing in life. I'll go on to something else. So anyway, while I was doing the cross stitching when I was young, teenager, I'd stitch and I'd be so bad at it that if you looked at the back where I tied the knots, they were so untidy and so messy, and so it took years to finish this one cross stitch. And when it finished, I just thought it was rather ugly and I threw it away. But actually when I bought it, it was perfect, but my work on it was really ugly. So when I started thinking about free will and choices, I remembered that cross stitch that I did. And that's how I see our life. It's a tapestry. We're given a beautiful picture. Now, how we sew the threads, you see, what was I doing when I was saying, I'm really not a seamstress, I don't like sewing, poked my finger, I bled, I don't want to use a thimble, it's uncomfortable. Do you see all the complaining going on in there? So much complaining. How could I produce a nice piece of work? Yeah, the outside wasn't too bad, but it wasn't brilliant. So, and that's how I understood free choice, what we put into our life. And when you do something with love, like my friends, she loved sewing. She came from a very, very poor family and she couldn't afford clothes. I used to give her all my clothes, but because she couldn't afford it, she was a great seamstress. She was a great seamstress. And she used to make most of her clothes. And then when she did the cross stitch, it was absolutely perfect. And what was the difference? The difference was she valued that tapestry that was given to her. Actually, I bought it for her because she couldn't afford it. She valued it, okay? The second difference, she's so little in her life that whatever she got, she appreciated. She put her love into it. She realized, oh my God, I'm so grateful for this. So she did everything beautifully. So you see, whereas I was a bit in my ego, a bit careless, a bit non-thinking, because I came from a wealthy family and everything's so easy for me. So sometimes having things very easy for you is not actually very good for us. So if we don't have the skills of the Spirit, it's not very good for us. When we have the skills of the Spirit, then wow, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. So this is how I looked at free choice, like that tapestry. Our destiny, a certain amount of it, is already there. We cannot change it. What we can change is what we do with it. And simply, the most incredible choice that we have, the only choice that we have, according to me, is to look at every situation as a gift, good or bad. And if it's bad, how can I find a solution? That's it. No, why, if, but, victim, but Nalanie, I could go on buts for the rest of my life and I won't get an answer. Something has happened. I trust. I'm not going to ask 1,000 whys. It's happened. I can't change it. What is the solution? And what can I do today to brighten up my day? And that is the only choice I think we have. If we take any other decision of being the victim, of feeling, oh, why has this happened to me? I am so unlucky. We suffer. We suffer. That's why I say the Lord of love is the divine energy. This is the devotion, the Lord of love, which lives in our hearts. Because when we work that way, then we are connected to the ultimate choice, which is the Lord of love's choice for us. Because we are already working in love, we are already blessed. Do you see? When we work in love, we already feel blessed. But when we work in ego, there is too much expectation. And this is why relationships go so wrong. Because we have ideas of how people should be. What is that talking? Who is talking there? It's the ego. I will only love you if you do this for me, or if you behave this way, because that is how I think you should behave for me to fall in love with you. Do you see how many conditions we've already put there? And already the ego has taken charge. Already you're telling somebody else, I am better than you. I know far more than you. Therefore, eliminating that person's free choice, or eliminating that person's, condescending that person to such a degree that they feel worthless. And we do this all the time in our lives. Either that, or we try to manipulate their minds because the ego takes over. I have to be right. Everything we do in life, when we get into conflict, rather than let the ego take over, we trust the higher source, the higher power. And in order to do that, you have to come to a place of neutrality. This is why I always tell people, anybody at council, when you're angry, when you've just had an argument, when you're really frustrated, when you want to strangle someone, this is the time you don't make a decision. This is the time you keep quiet. Get away for a little while. Get some space. Get out to the countryside, look at the trees, and get back to that divine source, and get back to that free choice place where God's plan is perfect. This argument, this anger, ask yourself, what is it teaching me about me? It could be that the partner is wrong, but it's also teaching you something about your reaction. It's teaching you about what pushes your buttons. It's teaching you about, are you a coward or are you brave? It's teaching you something, otherwise it wouldn't happen. So while it's happened because you have to have a lesson through this. So you ask yourself, what is my lesson through this? And your lesson will be very clear to you if you ask. And your lesson is you have to go back in there and say, you're not going to take that nonsense. It will be that. And if your lesson is, oh my God, it's me, I've got so many expectations, then you will say, I'm sorry, maybe I expected too much, forgive me. So But having that space of neutrality and going with the higher choice of neutrality rather than just jumping in because the ego has to be right is, for me, the best choice. Sometimes I see couples, they have so much expectation of each other, and it makes me laugh because they come into my office and the wife will be telling me, he never talks and he never listens to me. And the husband say, but I'm trying to tell her something, but she doesn't listen to me. You see, he interrupted me again. And I go, hey guys, stop there just one moment. Just stop. You are both accusing each other of the same thing. And then she'll say, no, I told him I want him to talk more, but he never talks more. And then he's saying, I'm trying to talk, but every time I'm talking, she says I'm interrupting. Whoa. And I said, stop right there and just keep quiet, one at a time. And this is what I have to teach them to do, one at a time, slowly. It's not about expectation. We're trying to find a solution. It's not about blame. This is the highest choice of love. This is the highest choice of love. And this, for me, is the free choice to learn. There is only one choice, the choice of what benefits everybody the most in this situation. Not only me, what benefits everybody the most. And if you leaving will benefit everybody, then you leave. If you staying will benefit everybody, then you stay. But your choice will be a holy choice based on true compassion, based on true love. And this is how you learn with your relationships. And then you learn with the rest of the world. And this is how you react with the rest of the world. Always in a position of neutrality. When you work from that position of love, it's much easier to forgive and let go. Much easier to forgive and let go. Because you are understanding that all had to happen for you to grow and learn. And then you're just grateful for every single teacher you get in your life. And isn't that the highest choice of all? So I hope I've answered your question. It is a tough one, but it comes with experience. It comes with your life. It comes with the practice. It comes with meditation. It comes with quiet time. It comes with practicing truthfulness, non-violence. It does come with the practice. And this is where we have to practice in our minds, not only physically towards the world. Yes, we can give charity, we can do good deeds, but that doesn't make us who we are. What makes us who we are is what we harbor in our minds and our hearts. And that's why the yoga of devotion is so beautiful. Can we influence the course of events through the vibration of prayer and meditation and by our own actions? Absolutely. We can influence the course of events. Absolutely. You see, our master also said, what are prayers? But strong, powerful thoughts. Your thoughts are so powerful. And prayer is a strong, powerful thought. I'm not talking about prayers of superstition. I am not talking about doing business with the divine source or God. I'm not talking about any of that, because people pray, I want this. What does the Bhagavad Gita say? Good people pray for 4 different reasons. They pray because they want to go from poverty to wealth. And these are good people. It doesn't mean you're not good, but that's what they pray for. And they pray because they want to know more about life. They pray because they are wise, and they pray because they want something in their life. They have a strong desire and they want this. So good people pray for these things, but the best of all is the person that is wise already. Because the person that is wise already will pray with pure vibration. So for example, you love someone and you send them healing prayers, that can touch them. But for example, this is where it gets really tricky for the spiritual person. Let's say somebody's really sick and you want them to get better. Of course, everybody wants everybody to get better. And then they start praying, oh, I want you to get better because I miss you and I can't live without you. We can have an influence on that person's suffering. They could suffer much longer because we're keeping them on earth because we want that. And it has a powerful vibration. I always ask people, when they pray with vibration, to always pray for that person, what is best for that person, what will bring the most good for the person, what will bring the least suffering, and what would be best for that person's karma. Forget about yourself. And that's what I prayed. Of course, when my husband was dying, 2008, I prayed. I wanted him to live, but when I saw him suffering, I didn't pray for that anymore. I prayed for what was best for him. And I said, if by any chance you can produce a miracle, please do, but not at the expense of his suffering. Not at that. Please consider that first. And that was my prayer. So yes, we can prayer are strong, powerful thoughts. But the outcome is not in our hands. The outcome is not in our hands, all right? But they can influence people very incredibly. And you know, how many times have we prayed for people when we get letters from the yoga center, when Shanti sends the prayers out and we pray for people? Do you know how many answers we get? Thank God your prayers, you know, they really help. They really help because people can feel it. And when they can feel it, they have the hope, they have the inspiration for those cases that can be healed and can be served. They have the hope, they have the inspiration. And what do I always say? We pray for them that the best happens for them. Can we influence courses in our lifetimes? Yes, we can. Again, by the choices we make. The free choice on that first layer, that first layer that I talked about earlier. Yes, we can decide to paint the picture beautifully or not. So yes, we can influence our life events right now by the way we think. Absolutely. We can decide at this moment. That's why the yogis say focus on this moment. Something is not good happening to you. Instead of going into the wheel of argument and viciousness and anger and victimhood, stop. Stop that wheel of karma. Stop it just there. Silence, peace. And say, peace is my God. And you've already changed the turn of events just by doing that. You've already changed the turn of events just by doing that. So can you change it? Absolutely. That is the first layer of free choice. And we should always. This is why it's so important, like I tell my students, really the first thing you have to do on this path is study the yamas and niyamas and live by them. Live, see what kind of things you are doing in your life. Are you angry? Are you always gossiping about people? Are you always complaining? Fix that first. Fix all those things first. When you fix those things, everything else will be added onto you. And all your answers will just come flowing in. They will just, when you're in that wonderful space of love and you're not thinking, making all these wonderful stories up in your mind, because that's what the mind loves to do. And what if this and and the future and I don't know how people can have so much stuff in their minds. When you're doing all this stuff, you're not allowing that energy to flow through you. You're not allowing that inspiration to come through you, that love to just, And then when you're in that space, Many ideas flow from a higher source. And it's not what you sometimes want, but it's what's best for you. And that's what my master also taught me. When he said that to me many times, when he told me, Nalanie, do this. Like, for example, he told me, Nalanie, teach. And I go, I'm not ready. I don't want to be a teacher. And then he says, Nalanie, is not what you want or what you don't want. That is what you need to do. Okay, sir. And he was right. He was right. Is detachment a form of ego? As you may feel sometimes, you are getting very close and familiar. So you try and space out your meetings, contacts, etc. Is that okay to say you do feel like that with God sometimes too? Good question. Is detachment a form of ego? Detachment is a form of ego if you are coming from a place of fear. Because, for example, I don't know where this question is coming from, but I'm going to answer it like this. I'm getting too close to this one. What if I fall in love again and it's not good for me? Will I suffer the consequences of another bad relationship? So I better just stay away because I may get hurt. So you see, that kind of detachment, if it's not based on a place of security, self-security, faith in yourself, faith in your own intuition, but it's based on fear, then it's ego. If that detachment is based from a place of strength, I can see I'm going to fall. I can see this is not good for me because I can see myself falling for the same old mistakes, and I am really quite solid in myself now, and I am sensing that if I get too attached, I'm not going to really enjoy this, for example, relationship. Then it's not coming really from the ego, but from a place of balanced thinking. There is a difference. There is a difference. If it's coming from fear or disturbance or something you haven't worked out in your life, then I'm really sorry. You have to just go through that and get out of it the other end, or maybe it's what's meant for you. Then you have to go through it too. You have to face your fear and do it anyway. As Susan Jeffers would say. It's a brilliant book. If you haven't read it, please read it. Feel the fear and do it anyway by Susan Jeffers. Because that is not real detachment. That is the ego. And when you don't face your fears, guess what? They keep coming back. They keep coming back. They keep coming back till you face your fears. If detachment, the feeling is, it's getting too now. As soon as I get close to these people, they get too gossipy, things get out of hand. Then also you realize that that's not the right path for you, and that's not ego. That is knowing, being very clear that that path is not the right one for you, and it's okay to detach. Then it's not coming from ego. It's just not your path. You don't want to be there anymore. It does happen as we go through the spiritual path. Sometimes we detach from certain situations that don't make us feel comfortable. Like I remember when I first started, there used to be coffee mornings, and everybody used to gossip and talk, and I just felt like a fish out of water. I did. And it just didn't feel correct. Was I judging them? No, I've been doing that with them for a few years, but it wasn't Nalanie. It wasn't Nalanie. Did I think they were bad? No, that was their life. It just wasn't me anymore, and I just couldn't do it anymore. So I stepped away. I stepped away without hurting them because I was working in the shop anyway full time. So I just told them I was working, and I was very happy to be working. I just really couldn't face. I used to come out of those meetings feeling sick. I couldn't do that to myself. That's who I had to respect that too. Do you see? And I don't think it was coming from a place with ego. It was just, this is not who I am. And I don't want to waste my time on earth. Even in those days, I felt like that. I don't want to waste my time gossiping or talking or just hurting people. This is not my way of being. So this is a very deep question. There are many different examples for that. But here I've given you a couple of examples. And then you ask about the detachment to God sometimes. Oh, that happens to all of us sometime in our spiritual journey. I call it the dark night of the soul, because normally this detachment towards the divine happens after something very dramatic happens to you in your life, something very dark, and you or you're in a space like I talked about in the first talk of Yoga of Devotion, that really your version of God is changing from a personal to a unmanifest, impersonal God. And there's a kind of ego argument with God at that time. Well, since you don't look after me anyway, and you're just beyond it all, and I have to do all this for myself, I'm going to detach from you. There's a kind of subliminal feeling, subconscious feeling that comes up. And so you kind of draw away from the divine. Or the other reason for that kind of thing happening is when you yourself in your life know, but you don't want to look at it, that you are doing something that is not prescribed by the teachings, spiritual teachings, that you yourself are maybe doing something dishonest, disloyal, without integrity. At that time, you separate, you detach. And literally, it is detachment because you're not in that energy of love. You're in the energy of hurting someone. You're in the energy of lust. You're in the energy of greed. You are in the energy. So you, by trying to avoid the situation of facing what you're doing, this greedy situation or this lustful situation, you kind of detach from God. It's kind of like, I can't face God now because you can't face yourself. Because where is God but within your very own heart? So that detachment is really a warning. And if you are smart, you will recognize it and realize this is when you need God the most. Because you're about to embark on something that will hurt you terribly. Greed, lust, aggression, arrogance, and everything you do ultimately will come back to you. And that's the detachment to the divine. Or the dark night of the soul when you go through, like for example, I often speak about it, and I'm writing it in my book that I'm writing at the moment, called to do with loss. When you initially lose somebody you're very close to, everything is dark. I mean, thank God I knew that when my husband passed in 2008. I knew it, but what I didn't expect was that I wouldn't feel God at all. I wouldn't feel the presence of any divine being. Now, I didn't expect that. It was just black. But because I knew that pain was a separation from the divine energy, I just still sat up and meditated every day without fail. Whether it was there or it was not there. But of course, what I learned later on was what had really happened. That the love was drained out of me. The person that I spent 34 years with and loved immensely was no longer there. So really, my separation was not from God, but from love. And it was only 6 months later, I still knew I had to practice. I knew the answer would come. I did not give up. This is why faith is so important. Through your dark periods, you mustn't give up. So I kept going. 6 months later, I call it, I did a Raj Yoga TT for 17 days in Quinta de Calma with 17 incredible students. And when I was teaching this course and I watched them all transform from their pain to joy, and their sorrows to connection with the divine, they healed me. And I actually told them at a teacher training when they were thanking me on graduation day, and I said, no, I have to thank you because you have brought love back into my heart. And that's how I know God is the Lord of love. That's how I know it so clearly. And this is why when there's no love in your heart, and when you try to resist love because you are fearful, then God is not in your heart. So you can't resist what comes to you. What you can have to do is go through it and come out the other end. This is what the journey of the soul is all about. This is the journey of life. We have to go through it before we can understand it. Remember my story about the bear? He wants to get to the other side, but he's scared to go through the dark forest. And his friend comes along and says, you can't go under it. You can't go over it. You have to go through it. And he goes through the forest and he bleeds and his skin hurts and the twigs cut him. But when he comes out the other end, he gets his honey and he sees the green fields. So this is life. This is the journey of the soul. And these are lessons we have to learn. Don't be afraid of those little scratches. They'll soon heal with love in your heart. All of it heals. But you have to allow the healing by forgiving life. Because it is life. Sometimes we blame life. There's nothing to blame. We chose to come to this earth to learn these lessons. And when you can see the highest plan, the place of no free choice, just wonderful karma, then you see it all as wonderful. Even when something bad happens to you, I know why this has happened because I did that in my past. I won't react like this in now. I'll react differently. And then you're paving your way for a perfect, beautiful future. Whoa, how is that difficult to understand? The Lord of love, no larger than a thumb, lives in the hearts of all and in our heart. So when love is chopped up, and this is why when you're angry with people and I don't like you, I don't like this, how can you know God? How can you know love? How can you be there when something awful befalls you? Oh, why did you do it to me? You separate. The choice is ours. It's happened. It's happened. How am I going to react? And if it's a terminal illness, how am I going to live my last days? I tell you, I'm going to live my last days laughing and saying, thank you for this life on earth. How am I going to live my last? I want to go out with joy. So it's a choice. It's a choice we all have to go one day. It's a choice how we want to live. And this is my knowledge of what I have learned through experience of life. And that is what it's taught me, that the divine plan is perfect. And to trust it. And don't worry so much about free choice. Just do what's right. Solutions, problems, solutions. There's always solutions. And you see a problem coming, don't go towards it. If you can avoid it, avoid it. Don't fall into the same trap again and again. That's not detachment, that's wisdom. There's a difference, okay?